is the end of season 2025 for us, and the end of season ride had become something of a tradition. Last year the West Alps, before that the Central Alps. But this year would be different. This year we were venturing into uncharted territory with a purpose beyond just the riding. 9 riders, friends, partners and my brother. The only week all year we actually get to ride together. See, during the season, Stefan is fully absorbed in this motorcycle rental business, while I'm out guiding tours across some of the most incredible riding destinations in Europe. When we're both busy, which is always, we get to spend little time together, let alone share a ride. This end of season trip is literally the only chance all year to actually twist the throttle side by side. Last year, we opened it up to more friends and my brother, which made it even more special. My brother and I had our first trip together in Norway, then 2 years later the second trip to the West Alps. For a long time I wasn't sure if he could carve out the time to join us for this third adventure, but he did. Having him there meant everything. But Andalusia wasn't just about tradition, we had a business challenge to solve. The motorcycle touring and rental season in Central Europe is relatively short. Typically just 5 months. We were looking to expand that season by exploring Southern Europe, specifically southern Spain and Portugal. The goal? To offer tours earlier in the season and maybe even later in the fall, when most other places are unrideable. Malaga seemed like the perfect starting point. So this wasn't just an end of season celebration, it was a full-blown scouting mission. I'd spent days putting together a 6-day itinerary, and now we had our chance with a total of 9 riders, including myself, to actually test the routes, check out the hotels and see if this would work. The Andalusia tour would be my first tour next year at the end of March, so this was an opportunity to give it a proper test run with a large group. The crew was a mix of familiar faces from last year's West Alps tour, Stefan, Jan, Dave, Raphael and my brother Phil, and new ones with Günther and our Norwegian friends Björn and Jens. As with all my tours, I brought Cardo communication devices for anyone who didn't have their own. These helmet-mounted units let us talk while riding, which is an absolute game changer for building group dynamics. With riders from different backgrounds, some who toured together before, some brand new, and our Norwegian friends requiring us to switch between German and English, being able to communicate on the move made it so much easier and faster to build that positive group energy. It's like a team building exercise at 100 km per hour. We met in Malaga. Stefan and Günther had brought the motorcycles down on the trailer, a long 2-day journey from Central Europe, and were all converged at the storage facility Stefan now rents near Malaga. Everyone arrived over the weekend, and on Sunday afternoon we met at the facility to pick up our bikes and load them with our luggage. I was coming straight from the Trans-Italia Marathon, a 5-day on and off-road event through the heart of Italy. And before that, the Adventure Country Track Tour, where I was guiding a group through Italy's most scenic gravel routes. My riding gear was covered with 2 weeks worth of dust and dirt. With temperatures approaching 30 degrees that afternoon, we grabbed a high pressure washer and gave me a much needed washdown. This time, most of us were on brand new BMW R1300 GS motorcycles for the trip. A couple of the guys had brought their own bikes down to Malaga, but most of us were riding Stefan's BMW rental fleet. Sunday afternoon we had a short 1.5 hour warm-up session on the motorcycles to reach our first accommodation in the mountains north of Malaga. It was a chance to get a first feel for the bikes and the roads in southern Spain. We arrived as the sun was setting, had drinks and dinner outside and watched the light fade over the mountains. The adventure was officially underway. Our official day 1 would see us traveling from Malaga to the city of Granada. On the way, we picked up the last 2 members of the group, our Norwegian friends Björn and Jens. Then we spent an entire day carving through Andalusia's curvy roads. As none of us had breakfast this morning, we made our first stop a long one, time enough to get some much needed coffee and food into our systems. We're back on the road, carving through the endless curvy mountain roads heading west towards the Sierra Nevada mountain range, only interrupted by a long lunch stop on the way. The accommodation I picked in Granada was close to and within walking distance of the most famous site in Granada, the Alhambra. The Alhambra is one of Europe's most stunning examples of Moorish architecture, a palace and fortress complex dating back to the 13th century that stands as a testament to Spain's Islamic heritage. It's Granada's crown jewel and one of the most visited monuments in Spain. Even though it was late in the season, there were no last-minute tickets available to the UNESCO World Heritage Site. However, we walked along the Alhambra to the Old Town during sunset, an absolutely magical moment. The light hitting those ancient walls, the views over the city, the sense of history, it was stunning. But not before we had our customary boot beer at the hotel to reflect our first day of riding. It's become a ritual. Park the bikes, crack open a cold one and talk about the day's highlights. And then we headed into the Old Town for dinner. Day 2 took us from Granada to Jaén. As I sometimes do with my tours, I planned 2 route options, and we picked the more exciting B option, which would take us through the famous Sierra Nevada mountains and up to the ski resort area. It was still pretty empty in the pre-season, but it gave us an incredible view over the valleys below. Then came one of the absolute scenic highlights of the tour for me. The Gorafe Desert is one of Europe's most unexpected landscapes, a badlands-like formation in the heart of Andalusia, featuring dramatic eroded canyons and otherworldly rock formations. Beyond its geological significance, the area is an archaeological treasure, home to over 200 megalithic burial sites dating back 5,000 years, making it one of the most important prehistoric sites in Europe. Most people have never heard of it, which makes it even better. The plan wasn't to go through it, since it's all gravel and off-road terrain and we were on street bikes. However, there's a great section that's paved with concrete for just over 2 kilometers that gives you a peek into the amazing landscape of this desert. It's a perfect viewpoint and photo spot, and we've got some incredible video footage there. The contrast between the high mountains we've been riding through and the stark alien desert was mind-blowing. In Jaén, we stayed at our first Parador hotel. These are historic buildings converted into luxury hotels, and this one was perched on top of a hill next to a historic castle overlooking the valley below. We had drinks and dinner to close out the day, watching the sunset over the castle walls. Our stay in Jaén marked the most northern point of the tour. I tried to keep the routing within the mountainous regions, so on day 3 we made our way south to Antequera through endless olive tree farms and plenty of curvy Andalusian roads. The landscape was mesmerizing, row after row of ancient olive trees stretching to the horizon, punctuated by whitewashed villages perched on hilltops. As lunchtime came around, we found this incredible Jamón Iberico place, Pata Negra, thanks to Stefan's excellent research skills when it comes to food. This region of Andalusia is famous for its acorn-fed Iberian ham, where black Iberian pigs roam freely through oak forests, feeding on acorns that give the ham the distinctive nutty rich flavor. It's some of the finest cured meat in the world, and we were about to find out why. We stayed in another Parador, Not as spectacular as the first one, but still positioned at the top of a hill with great access to the old town. Dave found and reserved a spot at a local restaurant where we had some of the most amazing food of the entire trip. The kind of meal where you lose track of time and just enjoy the moment. We woke up to a beautiful morning once more, and our location on the hilltop gave us a finally beautiful view over the town of Antequera right after the late sunrise. On this day we kept going west to reach the actual westernmost point of the tour, Arcos de la Frontera, and again it was a parador where we stayed, and again it was perched on the hill close to the old town. Beautiful place, sunshine and spectacular sunsets. But the riding in between was what made this day special. We went through the sierras between Antequera and Arcos de la Frontera. Curvy roads, beautiful roads to ride with elevation changes, past more olive trees and through mountain passes that kept giving us corner after corner. We made sure to pull over from time to time to take in the beauty of the Andalusian landscape and to appreciate the relatively short time we would have together. Ended in Arcos de la Frontera, one of Andalusia's famous Pueblo Blancos, white villages that cling to hilltops like they're defying gravity. This one sits on a dramatic cliff edge 185 meters above the valley, with narrow, winding streets barely wide enough for a donkey, let alone 9 fully loaded BMWs. Navigating up those tight, curvy roads to reach our hotel at the top was quite the challenge. Threading our way through ancient stone archways and past whitewashed walls with just inches to spare. We found just enough space near the entrance to park all 9 motorcycles. The De la Frontera part of the name comes from its history as a frontier town between Christian and Moorish Spain. For centuries, this was literally the front line of a cultural divide. Now, it's simply one of the most stunning places we visited on this entire tour. After our arrival beer, we witnessed one of the most spectacular sunsets of the entire tour. The town seemed to glow in golden light, and you could see for miles across the surrounding countryside. We found a spot in the old town for another incredible meal. By this time, we'd grown close as a group. Days of shared experiences on the road and the ability to communicate while riding had accelerated the bond between us. Midway through the tour, Björn had surprised me with one of my favorite whiskeys as a gift. This night, under the starlit sky on the hotel deck, we shared his bottle, celebrating life on 2 wheels and new friendships forged on the Andalusian roads. The sunrise the next morning was stunning. Warm morning light bathed the old town perched on the hilltop, giving us one last view down to the valley before we saddled up and hit the road again. From Arcos de la Frontera, we carved through endless curvy mountain roads with only a brief stop for cold drinks. The riding was pure Andalusia. Sweeping corners, elevation changes and views that kept pulling our eyes off the road. Then we arrived in Ronda. Ronda is one of Andalusia's most spectacular and historic towns, dramatically split by a 120-meter deep gorge carved through the heart of the city. The town's most famous landmark, the Puente Nuevo, the new bridge, took 42 years to build and was completed in 1793, connecting the old Moorish quarter with the newer part of the city. Beyond its dramatic setting, Ronda holds an important place in Spanish culture as the birthplace of modern bullfighting. The town's 18th century bullring, Plaza de Toros, is one of the oldest and most beautiful in Spain. It's also a tourist magnet. The place was still packed with visitors in early October, and I'm hoping there will be fewer crowds when I'll be back at the end of March. I had booked accommodation in the city center, right in the old town, and specifically looked for a place where we could safely park our bikes in a garage. Shortly after sunrise, we geared up for one last time together. We had one final view of the beautiful town of Ronda and looked for a breakfast place nearby, as it was also time to say goodbye to our Norwegian friends as we were taking off on faster roads for a longer journey to head back to Alicante. From Ronda, we made our way back to our starting point in Malaga. This would be our last day of riding together, and we made it count. We rode all the way down to the Mediterranean coast, the first time in days where we could see the ocean again. In Marbella, we went straight to the beach and some of the guys jumped into the water and took advantage of the warm October weather. To Malaga to drop the bikes off at the storage facility. From there, we headed to downtown Malaga, where we had a nice, centrally located hotel for our last night together. We had a great meal, went out on the town, had too much to drink and had a fantastic time. Basically closed down the adventure that night, celebrating not just the end of the season, but the success of a scouting mission and another year of riding together. 6 days, 9 riders, countless curves and one question answered. Yes, Andalusia works. The routes were incredible, the hotels were perfect, and the weather in the late season was still rideable. Southern Spain could absolutely extend our season, and I'm already excited to bring my next group here at the end of March next year. But beyond the business side, this trip reminded me why I do this. It's not just about the roads or destinations, it's about the people you ride with, the stories you share over boot beers and dinners, and those moments when you're carving through a mountain pass with your brother beside you and friends from different countries all connected through helmet comms, laughing and calling out the next great corner. That's what the end of season ride is really about, and Andalusia delivered.